So you want to buy a smart rower? Very cool. Before you choose a particular model though, there are a few things you should know that the manufacturers aren't going to tell you, and honestly, most reviews and comparisons here on YouTube don't get into either. I want to make some suggestions you might not hear elsewhere that can get you access to the exact same software or classes you want, but for less money and with more flexibility. I'm going to start by talking this through in general terms to give you the information you need to think about this for yourself, but later I'll get into specific strategies for saving money with particular smart rower brands. The most basic thing to understand is that different rowing hardware comes with very different philosophies and business models. I like to think of this in terms of open versus closed ecosystems, and you might be surprised at which category certain rowers fall into. Closed rower ecosystems are fully vertically integrated, with one company controlling the rowing hardware, the display, the software it runs, where your data goes, everything. You can think of this like the Peloton business model, and Hydrow, Aviron, NordicTrack, and Echelon all work this way. There are definitely some benefits to this approach. These integrated experiences can be really polished and seamless to use. But there are definitely limitations too. You're locking into a particular hardware rower and a particular subscription service and set of software features and development priorities. You're really at the mercy of the manufacturer in terms of what they might or might not choose to implement or support in the future, or how their monthly prices might change, or whether they're even in business in 2 or 5 or 10 years. The alternative to this model is an open rower ecosystem, where you have the ability to mix and match hardware and software based on your particular preferences regarding monthly fees, features, classes, whatever. There are way more options here than your typical rowing machine comparison video lets on, and if you know what you want, you can very often get it for less money than an equivalent all-in-one purchase. I'll go into some specifics around rowers like the Hydrow, Ergatta, and CityRow Go in a minute, so be sure to stick around for that if you find any of those interesting. There are 3 hardware rowers that I would consider as belonging to an open rower ecosystem. The first is the Concept 2 rower, which can actually do a lot more cool stuff than most review videos let on. Right out of the box, its PM5 monitor can connect to phones, tablets, and computers via either USB or Bluetooth. And there are a huge number of apps that can use its real-time performance data and even automatically program in workouts for you. The other 2 open rowers are both made by WaterRower. I've actually never seen a review or comparison that explicitly acknowledges that WaterRower makes 2 different models. Obviously they have the traditional dual rail rower that has your feet raised and close together, but they also make a second A1 model with a monorail, where your feet are lower and further apart. And this one's actually cheaper. While there can be some extra add-ons or upgrades required, both of these models can connect to apps via USB or Bluetooth. In many cases, these are the exact same apps that you can use with a Concept 2, so you really can mix and match between hardware and software to find the perfect combination for you. I'm a pretty big proponent of this kind of open ecosystem, where hardware manufacturers can focus on making timeless, high-quality rowing hardware, while software manufacturers compete to provide new innovations and experiences. Okay, so let's talk about some specifics and how you might be able to use this perspective to save some money. Obviously, if you really want something like the Aviron because of its games, for example, you're going to need to fully commit yourself to that closed hardware and software ecosystem. Hydrow's actually a little bit fuzzier. Its big selling point is its follow-along on-the-water workouts. What a lot of people don't realize, and most Hydrow reviews don't mention this either, is that Hydrow's actually an app that you can subscribe to at a cheaper rate without having to own their rower. Especially when you consider that after you spend $2,000 on their rowing machine, you still have to pay that monthly subscription fee, spending half of that on a Concept 2 or a WaterRower, and paying half the subscription fee on the app-only membership might be the better option for a lot of people. Sure, you're not going to get your metrics and leaderboard right on the video, but you should make a conscious decision about whether for you that's worth an extra $1,000 up front, plus hundreds of dollars more a year. Some of the rowers out there that are often framed as hardware-software packages actually live very squarely in the open ecosystem side of things, even if they're not marketed that way. To their credit, Ergatta is probably the most transparent about the fact that they're just selling a screen bolted onto a traditional dual-rail WaterRower. But if you buy the full package from them, you'll only get their single-purpose tablet and not the WaterRower S4 monitor, which you need to connect to other apps. Also, that combo package actually costs more than buying a WaterRower and Ergatta upgrade separately, and you can't buy it from them with the monorail A1 rower. By splitting up the rower hardware from the software, you can save money and get the physical rower that's best for you without sacrificing the ability to use other non-Ergatta apps or do workouts without power cables or internet. Like the Ergatta, the CityRow Go Max is also a WaterRower with a single-purpose tablet attached. In this case, it's the monorail WaterRower A1. But like the Ergatta package, you don't get a standalone monitor, which would allow you to use other apps or track off-the-grid workouts. Interestingly, the CityRow Go Classic replaces the tablet with a custom WaterRower A1 monitor that provides Bluetooth. So in theory, you should be able to use it with non-CityRow apps. Even then, you can get a WaterRower A1 with the better S4 monitor for less than the price of a CityRow Go Classic, so I still don't see any reason to buy this instead of a standalone WaterRower. Either model of standalone WaterRower works with the CityRow Go app, as does the Concept 2. Again, make your hardware and software purchases separately, and you'll save money and keep your future options open. Anyways, I hope this has been useful and maybe given you something to think about if you're looking to buy a rowing machine. There's a lot that you can do with a Concept 2 or a WaterRower, and just because these newer all-in-one packages offer some cool experiences doesn't mean there aren't other less expensive ways to get those same benefits. And of course, there are also cool experiences that are only available through independent apps. Leave a like if you found these ideas helpful, and definitely leave a comment if you disagree. Well, obviously I have my own opinions. I'd rather we debate this issue than ignore it entirely.